Welcome, Game Community 510 Gaming. I'm the host of 510 Zombie. We're going to talk about Metro. So I first saw this on Relyonhorror, but it was actually released originally on 4A Games blog post. But it's going to have multiplayer, or they're thinking about multiplayer for the next Metro game. So we'll read this and then we'll talk about it and what I think maybe they should or shouldn't do. And yeah, I'd love to know your opinions. So here we go. From the developer. It's no secret we have already started working on the next Metro game, using everything we've learned from the past 15 years to set out our sights on even higher. The next title is being built for the 9th gen consoles and PC. We are completely overhauling our game engine, rendering, taking advantage of new powers, storage and hardware, support and ray tracing afforded by the new consoles. Cool. The next bit is we're not looking at multiplayer as a box tick exercise or to jump on some trend and bandwagon. As a creator, we want to explore the multiplayer experience that makes complete sense in the Metro universe. We're also committed to ensuring that whatever we do is not to the detriment of our single player ambitions. We need a dedicated team focused solely on the online component. And this is what our new partnership with Saber Interactive can bring: years of experience, technology, and know-how to help us realize our ambition. Additionally, a reminder that it's still early days. None of the thoughts above mean that the next Metro game will be multiplayer only, or that the next game will have a single player and multiplayer in the same package. We're still figuring out things about. Still figuring things out, but know that we are absolutely committed to more single-player, story-driven experiences in the Metro universe for our fans that have come to know and love. So that sounds good. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds like they are on the right track. It's good to know the next Metro game is being built. I must admit, I wouldn't mind them doing something else. I mean, let's be honest. Metro is their bread and butter, and the next game they make, if they were to make a different series, for example, it'd probably something similar, right? It's probably not going to change all that drastically. But they've got a good thing, so keep it going. Why not? But I wouldn't mind them like changing up, maybe making a different game, because their games in general are really good. As I said, the last 15 years they've only made one type of game. Not the worst thing in the world. But it'd be interesting to see what else they can make. But multiplayer is one of those things that a lot of these big publishers, they just box tick, yeah, we got multiplayer, and they don't actually think about what to do with it. So we're going to talk about what type of multiplayer would work for the Metro series. Resident Evil is a prime example of multiplayer that does and doesn't work. They've done the versus mode, which I hear is a really good versus mode in a Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Resistance. It's a nice add-on. I hear it's a good system. It's a good game. I haven't played it myself. I hear it's good, but when I look at it from the outside, being a Resident Evil fan, I don't see that multiplayer system being good. It's just like that doesn't work. It doesn't gel with the universe, and that's one of the things the Metro guy said, is that it's got to make sense for the universe that they've built. And I think versus multiplayer would definitely be something off the table. I don't think that works. Dead Space 2 did a versus multiplayer, where it was you played as the engineers versus the necromorphs, and that kind of works. It works better in Left 4 Dead in their universe than I think it did personally in Dead Space 2. I did play it. It was average. I don't think it worked. But going back to Resident Evil, I think they had it spot on in the first place. The mercenary missions, I think, worked fine. Mercenary missions, I think, worked amazing in Resident Evil, and their mercenary mode, their last stand survival type mode, I think that works as well. And that is what I think would work for Metro. I think they could also do a mission-based system, so like a challenges mode, a multiplayer challenge mode. That'd be kind of cool. 4, 6 people, probably be 4 or 2 is the general consensus. I would love if they expanded the number, because it's always 4 or 2, and 4 or 2 is cool. I do understand that the more players you add, the harder the game gets to develop as a developer. I'm fully aware of that. I think the only 6-player game that I can think of is Killing Floor. Killing Floor 2, Killing Floor 1 and 2. It's an amazing survival mode with up to 6 players. I think it's awesome. It's amazing. That's something I think that maybe they could lean towards. Saber Interactive in general, they're a good studio, so they could definitely pull it off. But I think in the universe of Metro, the best idea is something similar to a survival mode. We know survival modes are really good. Obviously, the biggest survival mode is probably either well, I'd say the biggest is definitely Call of Duty. The zombie mode in Call of Duty, from World at War all the way till now, they're always massive. They're big. People love them. I'd love to get the proper numbers to see how many people actually play on console of just the survival mode. I know that I'm one of them. I'll go back to the old games. Seems like I don't really buy the new games anymore, just because I don't really like Activision. I can't support what they do personally. But they're old games that I've already bought back in the day. I'll go back and play them, and I love them. I think they're wicked. And I think that is probably the direction that Saber and 4A games should go in. A survival mode. I think a survival mode works in their universe. There are a couple of sections in the Metro games where you do kind of have to hold out, and you're trying to get to point A to point B type thing. That, to me, makes perfect sense in that universe. It works really well in the Underground. I know they come above ground now with the last one, which I haven't played yet. I need to play it. I've got it, I haven't played it. It's on PC. PC's dead right now. I'm building a new one. But I think that would work. Holding out in a certain section. Survival mode, I think it just works really well in the Metro universe. That to me makes sense in their universe. You're in the Metro. These creatures are coming in from everywhere. Just holding out on surviving. That makes perfect sense to me. And that to me seems like the best solution for multiplayer. Versus multiplayer is fun, and I know that versus multiplayer brings in loads of money for these companies, but some of these versus multiplayer, they just don't work in the context of your universe. Resident Evil was a prime example. Umbrella Corps, was that it? That terrible one, I think was it on the 360 or was it on the PS4? I can't remember now. But yeah, Capcom released their versus mode and it just got panned. It was terrible. Everyone hated it. I haven't played it. I wasn't going to play it. I didn't want to play it. It just looked bad. Versus mode just doesn't really fit, in, especially in the world that the Metro have. It's more of a, I hesitate to say survival horror. It's not quite survival horror, but it's an intense, gritty survival type mode, type game. It is. There are some jump scares in it, shall we say? You know, those creatures are bloody scary. It's definitely not survival horror, but it's along that track, and I think that type of versus mode just doesn't fit on that type of thing. It really doesn't. For example, Last of Us, the first one, they had a really good versus mode, and apparently that fitted in their world and it worked. And in my head, that makes perfect sense. Everyone's trying to survive. It's a kill or be killed world. That makes sense in their versus mode. But for Metro, I think survival mode is probably the best idea. They could definitely take some cues from the Call of Duty guys. Have a look and see what they've done. I only played a little bit of Saber Interactive's last game, which was a World War Z. That looks really fun. I played a little bit of it. It was interesting. I enjoyed it. I need to play it properly with some friends. But that was fun. I think that's the right way to go. I don't know if an entire multiplayer Metro game would work on its own. I think it could do. Kind of like Left 4 Dead maybe style. 4 players, getting from point A to point B. That might work, but it might become a little bit too gimmicky. Thinking as a developer, because I'm developing my own little game, obviously nothing as big as these guys, but in my head, I don't know if a sole single player game, multiplayer game, like Left 4 Dead style co-op, I'm not sure if you could keep that going. Like the story mode in the Metro games are amazing. The single player story, the way they craft it, it's incredible, right? It's amazing. If you haven't played the Metro games, go play them. You can get them on 360 and PS3 for like pittance, okay? You can literally go down to a second-hand store, under 50 quid, you're getting 2 amazing games on a console. And then you could use that console to play those other games as well. So go do that. If you've got a PC, just jump on Steam, go and get it. If you've got any of the new consoles, get the remaster version. Just go and get the game. It's amazing. Definitely play it. But the way they craft their story, it's really good. And when you have multiplayer, crafting a story is really hard. I'm not gonna lie. That's why Left 4 Dead works so well in the way they do it. It's in-game notes. It's a chat between players. That's kind of how it's an easy way to tell a story, because you can't tell what's the right word? You can tell an in-depth story, right? But what you can't do is keep the player's attention, right? So we'll take Resident Evil 5 for example. It's a co-op game. The story in there isn't anything to write home about. It's a typical Resident Evil story. But even if they tried to make that a serious, grounded, gritty, immersive story, it wouldn't work as well because there's two people there. So when you're playing a game, if you're playing online, or as me and my wife did, we played System Link in the same room, your attention can be divided. So you've just had a massive battle, for example, you've survived that section and you then go into the next section, and then as you're walking along it goes all quiet, and then because we're human and we have lives outside the video game, your wife might go to you, oh, remember tomorrow you've got to go and get the shopping, or the kids have got to be picked up, or I've got an appointment, right? And instantly it breaks the immersion. It does. And that's the thing you can't count on. You can't kind of control when you're playing multiplayer. So that's why in general Left 4 Dead, the way Left 4 Dead does it, it's really good. And a horde mode is probably the best idea, because it's short, it's sharp, and it works in the context of the story, because you can't, as I said, try and tell a massive story, in-depth story in multiplayer. All it takes is one person just to break the immersion, and it goes. I think it's possible. Someone could definitely do it. I'm not sure if Saber Interactive personally are the guys for it. I'm not gonna lie. I think probably the best guys to probably do it is probably Saber Interactive and Metro together. If they can collaborate, if the publisher, or they've got enough funds and a good few years to develop it, they could probably come up with a really good immersive multiplayer game. But it'll cost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and in general, the developers don't have that long. You have 4 or 5 years to make a game, and then your last game is the one that's funding that, unless you've got a publisher, or you get money from other resources, revenue streams. So a multiplayer like story mission game, probably not going to happen, I don't think, right? Maybe something similar to Left 4 Dead, but I think survival mode is probably the best idea. You can keep the intensity in it too. If you ever played some of the original Call of Duty zombie games, it's intense. It can be intense. Trying to hold out. You're up to wave 25. Things start to get hectic. It feels immersive. You're there, type of thing. Especially in the Metro series, if that type of thing is brought across, you've got to change the gas filter. Your guns could jam. You've got to clean them. That type of thing, I think, could really work in the Metro universe. And I actually think it's, I hesitate to say easier to do, because video games aren't easy. I know that, and I'm only making a 2D game. But for a veteran studio like Saber Interactive, I think a survival mode attached to the game, or maybe just a standalone survival mode on its own, kind of like the way Alan Wake New Nightmare does it. It has got a single player, it's got a survival mode. It's a small contained game, something like that. I think Saber Interactive could probably make, and you still keep the essence that's Metro, the atmosphere, because that's one of the things. The other things, you've got to try and keep the atmosphere. It's all well having something that looks good, but if it doesn't feel good, and when you're trying to survive, you don't feel like you're in danger, once again you break the immersion. The only other thing you could do, which I think would be something they could do, is mission mode. So if you've ever played Call of Duty again, Spec Ops mode, or challenge modes from other games, where you've got a set time to go do X, Y, and Z, I think something like that might work. Once again, that's similar to doing a story-driven multiplayer mode, but it's not quite. it's easier to keep things small, contained, and to keep the atmosphere for, you know, that set time. That's something that you can do a lot easier than trying to do a massive sprawling 8-hour campaign with multiplayer, for example. So they could do, like, say 15 small challenge modes, which I think would work really well, and then you can have difficulty that you could increase, things like that. I think that would work really well. Once again, going back to Resident Evil, the mercenary mode kind of works like that. Mercenary mode was first brought out in Resident Evil 3, and that wasn't a survival mode. It was, you know, a small contained challenge mode type thing. Go to point A to point B. I think that would work in the context of the Metro series, because the Metro game is pretty much. This sounds really bad. Actually, now because of that. That sounds really bad. In the Metro world, it is pretty much a fetching stuff. A fetch quest? Oh my god, no. I can't have explain it. But going from point A to point B makes sense. Or retrieving something makes sense in the Metro world. Or trying to leave an area makes sense. So challenge modes like that just make sense. You know, get to point A to point B, find this resource, you know, gather more ammo. Actually, that might be pretty good. So you've got to go from point A to point B, and your whole mission is to go get ammo. But of course, you use ammo in your guns, so it's a balancing act to try to grab the ammo you need, while trying to use the ammo to keep yourself alive. And as a co-op affair, that might be pretty good. And if they balance it right, it means that you, for example, trying to cheese it, because, you know, gamers always try and take the path of least resistance, right? You've got two of you. Well, it's pretty simple. One of you runs in there and stocks up the maximum you can. The other guy or girl runs in and does the exact same thing, maximum ammo, but only one of you kills the enemies. So one of you is fully stocked up, and providing you're running like mad, the other player can try to conserve the energy, but the ammo, but they're the ones that are doing all the shooting. You know, and that would cheese it. That's pretty easy. So maybe they have to balance it so that you can't do that. You two have to work together. You have to, you both have to use the ammo. But that'd be a kind of cool mechanic, that the ammo you've collected is also the ammo you're using. And in the Metro world, that kind of makes sense. And you've got the military grade ammo, which is powerful ammo, but it's also currency. I don't know if you need to upgrade, like have some upgrade abilities, because in the Metro games you can upgrade your equipment. That might work in a survival mode, a challenge mode. That might be a component to bring over. I think that could work. It's just trying to keep the atmosphere of the game as well. But Left 4 Dead, I can't remember the level is, but there's a really good level. Me and a friend, we used to play Left 4 Dead all the time, and I think you start off at the top of the church, and there's a gas station down the bottom, down the hill. And we used to make up a game called Shop Run. So one of us would stay in the safe house because you could see the gas station from where you are. So on the way down, you could use a big gun. But when you got there, because we call it Shop Run, you collected stuff, even though you couldn't collect stuff. We made out like you collected stuff, you know, can of beans, some detergent, you know, things like that, right? And then when you left, you could only have a pistol because you've got all the stuff in your hands, right? So they're at the top and they've got all the guns. Sniper rifle is probably the best one. But once you're down, you're the one going down for the run. Once you come back out, like going in, it's fine. You got your big machine gun. But when you come out, you can only have a pistol. That was fun. We enjoyed playing that. It wasn't something we played forever. It was just something we something like 2 o'clock at night. We were just pissing about in Left 4 Dead, and it was just really, it was a fun experience. It was enjoyable, and that experience kind of stuck with me. And something like that, I think, in the Metro world would be kind of cool. So you've got your big gun, you go and get your resources, but on the way out now, you've only got the pistol because obviously you're carrying things in the other hand. I know there's a backpack in the latest Metro game, which could kind of alleviate that, which means you could carry your big gun. But if they just change it around so you have to carry it in your hand, for example, that might work in the Metro game. That could be something that I think could definitely work. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the multiplayer side of the Metro games. I'm interested. I like the atmosphere of those games, and I'm a big survival mode fan in general. So I think that's the direction they should go. and I think that fits in the world. But yeah, it'd be definitely interesting to see what happens. See, I mean, they said it's early days. Metro only came out last year, I think it was, year before. I can't remember now, it's gone from my head. So I think we're waiting at least 2-3 years. So what was it 2020? I don't think we'll see anything until 2023 at least. Maybe before that if we're lucky. You never know. And that's either the multiplayer game or the standard new Metro 4 or whatever they're going to call it, the fourth Metro game. I don't think we'll see anything until 2023. As long as they don't do that stupid Epic exclusive thing, that's fine. Like, what are you doing? That does not help your consumers. It pisses them off. You don't want to piss off your consumers because they're the ones that buy the games. And if you piss us off enough, we won't buy stuff. Okay, that does happen. Once again, the A4 guys said that wasn't their fault. It was Deep Silver's anyway. So publishers being publishers. But yeah, we've got a good 3-4 years until this maybe multiplayer game comes out, or maybe a single player game with multiplayer component. So you've got a while to wait. So we've got loads of time to speculate. Loads of time to speculate. In that time as well, we should have Back 4 Blood should be out soon as well. So that could be something that they could maybe have a look at, use as inspiration. Who knows? So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the new Metro game having, or a Metro game having some sort of multiplayer component. Do you think I'm right that the survival mode is the best way forward for their universe, or the challenge mode type thing, or should they just do a proper story-driven multiplayer game? Do you think it will work? Do you think it won't? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. You can catch me on Twitter at FTZombie. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. If you hit the dislike button, make sure you tell me what you didn't like. I'll always try to make my content better. Hit that subscribe button too and hit that bell. That way you'll know whenever I upload the videos. So you can catch me on Twitter at FTZombie. I've been the Fire Thunder Zombie for Fire Thunder Gaming channel. Remember, if it ain't Fire Thunder, it ain't gaming. I'll catch you laters.